Empathy can be disastrous if taken too far and given too freely. Many people have described empathy as the most sophisticated and beautiful quality of humans. And I agree with that. However, empathy is kind of like a car. If we don't steer it and we don't have brakes to kind of guide the vehicle, it can be really disastrous and we can get in some serious trouble. And today I want to share some of my experiences, maybe taking my empathy too far, not steering it wisely. If you're new here, my name is Miles. I'm an author, and one of my books is actually called How to Open the Heart. It's an autobiographical story that kind of charts my experience over a number of years, aggressively opening my empathy and vulnerability, examining and taking down the walls inside of me between myself and others and difficult feelings. And while that was an extraordinary thing to go into and explore, I must admit that at the end of years of recklessly tearing myself open, I was so hyper empathetic. I cared so much about other people's feelings and thoughts and perceptions that it was basically disabling. I became a weak, emaciated person because I went, I guess, so far in one direction. And I've had to learn how to have discernment and boundaries that kind of contain that wide open empathetic heart. And that leads me to my first of two lessons that I wanted to share today. And that first lesson is caring too much about what other people feel and think is trouble. And that's kind of like one form of maybe misguided empathy or unhealthy empathy. We live in a world of such complexity. There are so many people around us who are wounded and they have twisted perceptions and projections. And for us to walk into the world and take that all on is a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for losing our precious, vital energy, entering into a conflict or a dialogue with every negative person's thoughts and judgments toward us. And for a long time, that was what I got in the habit of doing, just excessively caring about other people's feelings and thoughts and judgments. And it's been a real sea change figuring out how to stop caring about that stuff and still feel empathy and compassion, but know where the line is, where it's really unhealthy to care. And I can think of two examples that kind of illustrate this. And I should acknowledge that I am not at all in any way, shape, or form a master of this, just somebody who's exploring it and who writes about it. So I think about it a lot. But one example would be an acquaintance who I'm around sometimes who seems triggered often by the very fact of my existence, the fact that I breathe, that I have this deep voice, that just the fact that I am a man seems triggering to this person. And for me to take that on and empathize and be deeply compassionate and enter into this kind of mushy Care Bear role with that stuff, I have found is a complete waste of energy and time. And it's quite unhealthy. And it's much smarter for everyone involved for me to just be like, okay, that's how you feel. Cool. I can still be kind to you. I can't really negotiate with that stuff, though. I need to have some pretty firm boundaries and just kind of like walk to the other side of the room, so to speak. And that can be hard to do. I feel like compassionate and empathetic people, maybe sometimes there's an insecurity that coexists with compassion and empathy where We want people to feel good, and we also want them to like us. And there's part of it that's probably healthy and beautiful, and part of it that's like an insecurity thing. And learning how to just be comfortable not being liked, doing my best, and letting people have their feelings and perceptions. That has been a really big learning curve for me, learning how to care less about the things I can't control, and turning down the knob that I had been really focusing on turning up for many years, of empathizing and really considering other people's perspectives. And when they spit in my face, just being like, okay, thank you. What can I learn from this? That's a great process to go into, but sometimes it's necessary to just have boundaries, just letting other people have their realities and letting that be something separate that I don't have to worry about or take on and absorb. And it doesn't become my reality. I don't empathically absorb it, so to speak. Another really great example of this caring too much would be, so I'm an author, I write books, I also create podcasts and videos and other forms of online content. And if something takes off, then there will inevitably be comments, some of which are incredibly rude and trollish. And one of the funniest of such comments that I remember was, it was a while ago, and it was on a video, and the person wrote something like, couldn't even watch more than 5 seconds of this. This guy is disgusting. He's a predator. He's evil. Stay away from him. And they were talking about me. And it was like, whoa, that's so intense. And they kind of just punked themselves by admitting that they didn't even watch the video. So their comment basically said, I don't know anything about what I'm about to say because I didn't even like I have a completely unqualified projection to share with you. That's what their comment said to me. It's like, you didn't watch the video and you have a complete character assassination of me? I mean, at least watch the video and find out what's actually messed up about me. There's stuff. There's stuff. Like, it's probably not as bad as you think. Maybe it's just boring. Maybe I'm just have a goofy grin. I don't know, but it's probably not as pathological as the comment. Anyhow, for me to give that a lot of emotional and mental space would be obviously a tremendous, it's like taking my precious energy and throwing it into a trash bin. It's such a poor use of energy. And for a compassionate, empathetic, considerate person, it can be hard to just be like, no, disengage, don't give any attention to that. Of course, that was a relatively easy example because it was a stranger and their comment was not very hard hitting. But that's the kind of thing that I've had to learn over these past several years, is just learning how to care a lot less about the noise around me and focus more on doing good, being in integrity, paying attention to how I treat others and how my actions affect them, but also learning the discernment between just kind of anxiously taking on the negativity and judgment in my environment versus being focused on my integrity and my values. The second thing that I wanted to just briefly touch on is, I think that really empathetic, considerate people, who are, the type of people who will get spit in the face by someone and will be like, okay, thank you. What can I learn from this? And how can I take responsibility for how I contributed to this? I think that such compassionate, empathetic people are easy prey for manipulative people. I think that there's a certain type of unscrupulous individual that either consciously or unconsciously goes through the world, and when they see a hyper empathetic individual, they see them as easy prey, and it's like, ooh, free energy. That person just gives away their energy and I can just go and take. And it can be really hard. I know that it's been hard for me in the past, to give and give and give and realize that someone could be comfortable just taking and then taking off and having no sense of like empathy back, no sense of reciprocity. Yeah, I think that hyper empathetic people with poor boundaries are easy prey for exploitation. And that has been another lesson for me, learning how to listen to myself when it feels off balance, listen to myself when I express a boundary and someone starts negotiating with it and pushing on it, understanding that when when we express a boundary and someone starts negotiating with it and pushing on it and disrespecting it, it means that we need the boundary. They're affirming the fact that we need that boundary. And the last thing we should do is take it down. And becoming comfortable having fiery boundaries, having strong boundaries, becoming comfortable being pissed off and being frustrated and saying, "Get out of here." Um, that can be a hard thing for compassionate, empathetic people, but it's quite necessary, I think, because a highly compassionate, empathetic person is such a gift to the world, and they really need to take care of themselves because one rough relationship could divert all of their gifts, could just get swallowed up by one bizarre relationship. And so to protect ourselves with good boundaries and being mindful of how much we're giving where, and if it really feels right and it really feels honoring and respectful and reciprocal, that's so important because there's this pot of gold in a compassionate, empathetic person, and they have to take care of themselves in order for it to really grow into what it can be. It can be a gift to the community and it can enrich their life and the lives of everyone around them. I think that's a good place to end this today. I just wanted to share a few thoughts on the dangers of unmitigated empathy and the importance of taking care of our empathy and having good boundaries, respecting it, respecting ourselves. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something from it. If you did, you can let me know. You can like this, you can comment, you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're interested in checking out my books, there will be links to them in the show notes or the description. My latest book, I've got a copy of right here. It's called 10 Lessons in Love. It's a collection of autobiographical stories about love, learning, loss, the kind of stuff I'm talking about here today. Again, link in the description or the show notes. There's an audiobook version of it as well now. Yeah, that's all for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening or watching. And until next time, take care of yourselves.